This is Dan Dix here reporting for Press for Truth with shocking proof about the use of agent provocateurs who are being used to initiate the violence in a number of riots that are taking place all over the United States as a direct result of the death of George Floyd. We see here last night riots were taking place in Houston, in New York, in Chicago, Atlanta, Washington, D.C., Detroit, Fort Wayne, Kansas City, Des Moines, Iowa, Vegas, Charlottesville, San Jose, Boston, Memphis, Columbus, Denver, Cincinnati, Portland, and Louisville, Kentucky. And indeed, all of these places seem to have had a number of agent provocateurs involved to initiate the violence in order to clamp down on a very legitimate protest. So in this video, we're going to go over this clip, which purports to show an undercover officer getting out of a police vehicle and then lying to this man saying he's actually working for CNN. We're going to also take a look at this clip, which shows a pallet full of bricks being left out front of a Louis Vuitton store. This pallet wasn't there before, and now it is. And it's clearly obvious to me that this is being done as a way to provide the means for violent, aggressive protesters and looters to smash Louis Vuitton open. We're also going to take a look at this clip, which shows a police officer being attacked by a number of protesters when a plainclothes cop, it appears to be, comes to his rescue, which shows there are a great number of undercover police officers embedded in these protests. We're also going to take a look at the infamous Umbrella Man, who was confronted after smashing up the windows of an auto shop, AutoZone, which we know what that ended up leading to. And people on the internet were very quick to point out that allegedly his wife outed him as being this officer right here. And I got to admit, when I first saw this, it was like, yeah, that looks like it could be the guy. But I mean, it's kind of hard to go just by his eyes. And now we're seeing clips of this coming out, which are quite questionable. The man in the umbrella, along with the man in the pink shirt who confronted him, being friendly with each other, walking together, smiling and laughing. And then we have this, came out officially from the police in Minneapolis. We know with precision where that officer was. They claim that's not him. St. Paul police refute persistent claims that undercover officers smashed windows and sprayed graffiti to provoke any rioting in Minneapolis. And finally, we're also going to look at some past examples that we've been exposing here at Press for Truth of agent provocateurs being used to clamp down on legitimate protests. But before we get into all that, I'd ask that you guys check me out here on pressfortruth.ca/donate. If you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, you can do a one-time donation with PayPal. You can contribute Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies. You can use the Patreon alternative. You can sign up for a member over here, or you can use the Patreon alternative here and sign up for a reoccurring monthly amount. Any amount helps, guys. We need the support coming directly from you, the viewers, as we're constantly being demonetized and shadow banned. But with your help, we'll be able to continue providing this type of information. So if you're not familiar with the term agent provocateurs, I can let you know this is essentially an agent of the state which is used to initiate violence at a protest where otherwise that would not be happening. Because you see, sometimes protests arise for very legitimate reasons, and the government needs to silence such a legitimate protest, but they can't just go stomping in there and just shut the thing down for no reason. Sometimes they need an excuse to do so. Sometimes that excuse comes up organically, but sometimes it doesn't. And when it doesn't, they put in what's called agent provocateurs, undercover police officers who are dressed as aggressive protesters who initiate the violence in order to get other protesters to follow their lead and begin to engage in illegal activity so that they can clamp down on the very legitimate protests. And that seems to be exactly what we're seeing all over the United States right now. We see here from this clip, a man confronts an undercover officer, it appears, to have been getting out of another police vehicle, who lies to him and claims that he's a member of the press. Here's that clip.
Were you at the protest?
Yes.
As a protester? Huh?
As a protester? As a cop?
Journalist.
As a journalist? Well, I saw you just getting out of a police truck.
That's not a police truck.
That's not a police truck?
No. Nope.
Who are you with? What?
CNN.
Oh, okay.
Who you with?
Myself?
Yeah. Were you protesting tonight, or?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. How'd it go for you?
Pretty good.
So, the guy's clearly all dressed in
Let's
black.
see if this is CNN.
And now this guy's going to go back to the vehicle that this guy originally got out of, where it looked like there were a couple other undercover police officers sitting in the vehicle. So the man who's dressed up looking like a black bloc protester who got out of this, what looks to be a police vehicle, claims that he's just a member of the press and not indeed an undercover officer. So this guy, very smartly, goes back to the vehicle to confront these undercovers to see what it's all about, and just watch how they react to him here.
Hey, is that the protest that way?
Yes, sir.
Who are you guys with?
We're just hanging out.
Just hanging out.
Are you cops?
Yeah.
You're not? You seem like cops.
No,
Are you CNN?
we're just hanging out, bro.
You're not. Are you CNN?
We're just hanging out.
Your friend just told me you were CNN,
Right, okay. Who's our
but
friend?
you're not. So he lied to me.
Who's our friend?
The guy who just got out of here and was dressed like a protester. I'm just a guy. I'm a DC resident. My name is Max.
Nice to meet you, man.
So you're undercover cops and you're sending people into the protests who are dressed like protesters, and he's lying to me and telling me he's a journalist, which is very bad for the journalistic profession, I would say.
And the cop just rolls up his window.
Okay, so those were cops, and you got a guy who just got out and said he was with CNN. So basically he's putting all reporters in danger. He was dressed as a protester, basically dressed like, black bloc style.
Yeah, so exactly. This guy was dressed black bloc style, and this guy, Max Blumenthal, went up and confronted these guys, which appear to be undercover officers, who then rolled up the window because they were being called out. They were being exposed for what they are, and it's great job on Max Blumenthal for putting the camera in their faces and exposing them for what they truly are. Now get a load of this one, guys. This is literally a pallet of bricks that was just dropped off conveniently right in front of a Louis Vuitton shop. Let's get the audio going on this.
Yeah, I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
Hey, where do them bricks go to? Where do them
This
bricks
is
go
set up.
to? Where do them bricks
We gotta
go
do
to?
better.
Ain't no damn
Gotta
construction.
do better.
Ain't no damn construction around here.
I see.
Ain't no damn construction around here. You just gonna set a pallet of bricks right there. Oh, okay.
Listen, I did jury duty 3 months ago. Y'all don't keep no bricks right there. Do better.
Yeah, again, so here, let's check that out once more from the beginning.
This the setup.
They put them there on purpose,
Y'all know
bro.
where we at.
They gonna set them hoes right up on the rail.
Y'all know what building this is
Come
right
on
here.
now.
I ain't even gonna say what name it is.
So clearly, as these guys are saying, this looks to be a setup. Why would they just drop a pallet full of bricks right in front of a Louis Vuitton unless they want these guys to actually start smashing things up and doing the looting and the illegal activity, again, so they can go in and clamp down on the legitimate protesters and do things like send in the National Guard. You can't just go ahead and do that unless you have the excuse to do so. And most of these protesters are being peaceful, but then you have these agent provocateurs who are going in and encouraging illegal activity. This ends up, with herd mentality and groupthink. Other protesters end up engaging in the illegal activity, and boom, there you have it, the recipe to completely shut down the legitimate protest. Now get a load of this clip. Here we see a police officer who is being attacked by a group of protesters, and he's starting to lose control here. I'll put a link to all of these clips in the description below so you can check it out for yourself. You can full screen it and watch it. But watch closely here as this officer here is struggling to gain control of the situation. People start punching him right now, and this man right here in the white hat comes in, as you see, right there in the white hat, and he comes to the rescue of the officer. He essentially pushes him into safety, and to me, it's pretty clear that there are undercover agents who are spread out all throughout this protest, and I think we just saw one of them in that video clip saving one of his own. Now, there are a number of reasons why undercover police officers would be embedded into a protest like this. One of the reasons is to collect information and to just basically do some reconnaissance, some research, some information gathering. But another one of the reasons why they go in there is to actually incite the violence in order to be the ones to get the violent people agitated and aggressive when they otherwise wouldn't have been. This is something we've seen over and over and over again. Now let's take a quick look at the now infamous Umbrella Man, who was smashing up the windows at this AutoZone, as we see here. So he's by himself. He's not a part of any of the other protests. He's got a black umbrella, some say to block out any kind of helicopter footage of him. And these protesters confront him. Let me skip ahead to the part where they actually confront him.
I just came with a hammer and smashed the windows.
So they're about to fight here, it seems.
Somebody hold my blunt. Hey, somebody hold my blunt.
They're calling him out, saying you're a cop.
Hey. Are you a fucking cop?
So they're calling this guy out as an undercover police officer, and as I'm sure viewers of this channel know by now, it didn't take long for someone on the internet to claim that this man right here is actually the officer who is dressed up as that guy. And I gotta say, when I first saw this, I thought to myself, it's kind of hard to identify somebody just going by their eyeballs. I mean, yes, it looks like both of these guys barely have any eyebrows, and it looks like it could be the same guy, but I mean, it's debatable at this point. And then this clip came out, and let me know what you guys think of this clip. It's rather bizarre to me. Somebody noticed that the Umbrella Man and the man in the pink shirt can be seen here, walking around, being friendly, even talking with each other, smiling and laughing. Watch the guy in the pink shirt. He's laughing and giggling there with the guy. Let me pull it back. This just was randomly picked up by somebody. They noticed. Here they are together, walking around, talking with each other, being friendly. Watch the guy in pink. He's joking around and laughing with them, like as if they're buddies. What do you guys make of that? Is there something else going on behind the scenes here? Well, as I said, the police in Minneapolis are already claiming that this is not one of theirs. It says, we know with precision where that officer was. St. Paul police refute persistent claims that undercover officers smashed windows and sprayed graffiti to provoke any rioting in Minneapolis. Says a video of a man smashing windows in Minneapolis, Minnesota has been the focus of persistent rumors alleging the man is a St. Paul police officer purportedly attempting to incite rioting while undercover. So the police are claiming that this is not him. It is very, very possible that it isn't, but at the same time, I wouldn't put it past the police officers to be lying about that as well, because I've seen that in the past. I've documented agent provocateurs that happened in Canada, and we had the police lie about it and say it wasn't them. Then when they were exposed on video, they later had to come out and admit that, yes, indeed, those were our police officers, but we put them there so that they could do their duty, this one police officer said. I'll show you an example of some of the agent provocateurs that we exposed in our film, United We Fall. Let me just briefly play this one for you.
They massed in Montebello what looked to be about 1,000, 1,500 protesters. There was a security perimeter around the meeting, and there was incredible police presence there. And at one point, the police were even caught infiltrating the protest by 3 giant, muscle-bound, supposedly anarchists wearing masks and holding rocks. Were threatening to throw the rocks at the police.
No! Put the rock down, man!
A union leader stepped up and said, "Take off your masks, put down those rocks, you're not with us."
You're a fucking cop, the 3 of you! Go on, it's our line!
All 3 of them are cops.
Everybody!
Eventually, they ripped the masks off the guys, and the guys dove behind the police line. And that was all. It was caught on tape. It was exposed. They were exposed as infiltrators because they were wearing the same boots as the officers who arrested them. Plus, of course, who dives behind a police line for protection if you're a protester? It's something.
So clearly, these police officers were exposed in my film United We Fall for what they were doing, and we also exposed in our film Into the Fire the use of agent provocateurs who were doing all of this stuff, setting the police cars on fire. These were undercover police officers dressed up as violent, aggressive members of Black Bloc who set the cars on fire, and that ended up leading to massive arrests. The kettling of hundreds and hundreds of people in Toronto, a huge violation of civil liberties. It was all made possible because of the agent provocateurs. I warned people that this was going to come before it happened. Here I am at a town hall meeting begging the chief of police here not to use agent provocateurs in the upcoming protest.
2007, there was a summit that was held in Montebello, Quebec, where 3 Sûreté de Quebec police officers were caught as agent provocateurs. They were dressed as aggressive protesters with rocks in their hands in an attempt to incite violence. George, as a representative of the Toronto Police, can you assure us that the Toronto Police Force will not engage in any police provocateur agent activities at the G20 summit?
Other matters, security matters, I'm not at liberty to discuss those in an open format.
Now,
yeah, he's not at liberty to discuss those matters in an open format. And sure enough, what happened? They did go ahead and use agent provocateurs at the G20, and it worked. They ended up being able to clamp down on that very legitimate protest to silence the opposition to what they've been doing. I went on to actually expose that on MTV on television, and I put it out
video
there.
Evidence is coming in. It appears as if the Black Bloc was almost given a complete green light to terrorize the city. Some police officers were even told to stand down and not engage. So the Canadian government is going to have us believe that $1.2 billion were spent on security, but they couldn't stop 30 or 40 Black Bloc guys from terrorizing the city. That just doesn't make any sense unless you consider the fact that this could be a setup orchestrated by the police. So my question would be, what is your opinion on the idea of undercover police officers being used as agent provocateurs to start the violence?
Rebecca?
Montebello, 2007.
So back then, we were getting the word out in a massive way about the use of agent provocateurs and the fact that this is a tactic that the government uses. And now here we are, over 10 years later, and we're seeing it again in massive ways in the United States, where they're trying to shut down a very legitimate protest, apparently with the use of agent provocateurs. But they do not want you to know that this is going on. That's why this video is very important to share. Guys, you know how when I usually start these videos, I like to start off with some sort of image like this that represents, what I'm going to be talking about. And get a load of this, guys. When I did an image search for agent provocateur on Google Images, this is what you get. A whole bunch of lingerie models. You literally go in and you type in agent provocateur. Boom, agent provocateur. And what you get is a whole bunch of lingerie models. Guys, they do not want you to know that this is a common tactic that the government uses, again, in order to shut down legitimate protests. This is something I've been trying to warn about for well over a decade now, and now we're starting to see it implemented at incredible rates all over the United States. And just about every single riot that breaks out, we're finding out that it was agents of the state who are the ones causing the violence. Now, why would they do that? Because it's all about order out of chaos. It's all about control. If they don't have the reason to clamp down on a legitimate protest, they have to create the excuse to do so that they can send in the National Guard and so that they can keep control of the narrative. So that's what this is all about, guys, moving forward. So please share this video. Click the thumbs up button. Let people know that there are actually agents of the state who are out there doing this. The majority of what you're seeing right now in terms of aggressive violence in these protests are being initiated by the government, by undercover police officers. I've exposed this numerous times and how it works in the past in my film The Nation's Deathbed, in my film United We Fall, and in my film Into the Fire. If you haven't seen those yet, guys, please check those out as well. Into the Fire documents the Canadian police state that descended upon us in 2010 when the G20 came to town. Links will be in the description for all of this, guys. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention today, guys. Please be aware and on the lookout moving forward for any of these protesters who are clearly not a part of the group but appear to be agents of the state. Keep your cameras rolling. Get your cameras in their faces. Confront them when you see them. And let's expose this for what it truly is. Once again, guys, if you appreciate my efforts to bring you this information, please click the thumbs up button, share this video, and stay tuned. We're going to have more video reports coming soon. This is Dan Dix reporting for Press for Truth. We all want truth. The truth will set you free.